Wow.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very, very interesting topic. In case you've been watching the news, then you know that late last evening it was, that spate of violence and stone pelting happened in Nagpur, which was unexpected. And well, maybe a lot of people say it's not unexpected. But in either case, as far as the news cycle goes, it was unexpected. It happened late at night. And it seems that the bone of contention is Aurangzeb's tomb in Aurangabad, and the fact that it's still there. In the thumbnail for the show, I've put up the photograph of the tomb. And to me, Smita, it was really interesting because when I lived in Burma, I went to the last Mughal's tomb. And it was very, very decrepit and basically, I mean, there was nothing there. It was just there. Nobody was really caring for it, although they did have one caretaker. But here, this Aurangzeb's tomb is actually very well maintained.
Hi. No, I don't think it is very well maintained. First of all, Aurangzeb's tomb is in Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. Can you say the right name of
Oh, okay.
Aurangabad has been officially named Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. So,
Stand
no, it's not very well maintained. It is there. There is also another tomb, if I'm not mistaken, next to it. I'm not very good in this. Some history or some tomb is already there. But you know what? The Aurangzeb tomb politics in Maharashtra is not new. It has been on for a while, and some people are saying today. In fact, Chief Minister Fadnavis himself said that the success of Chhawa film, is sometimes the emotions are. But if you ask my personal opinion, I'm very happy we are discussing this subject. Not only for me, it is Aurangzeb's tomb. There is a Afzal Khan tomb which is in near Pratapgarh. Afzal Khan, I don't even have to explain the tyrant who there was a big battle, if I'm not mistaken, around 1657 or 58. I could be wrong with this date also, where the Battle of Pratapgarh and Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj killed Afzal Khan. And in fact, there is a tomb of Afzal Khan near Pratapgarh along with his bodyguard. And if my memory serves me right, if at all my memory is serving me right, 2 to 3 years ago, there was a lot of illegal construction around this tomb in Pratapgarh, which is in Satara district. And there was a lot of demo. They were literally like I won't say a hotel room, but rooms constructed around that tomb to almost create some kind of a big tourist attraction to that tomb, which was demolished by the government. So happy about that, but I just feel that it's a subject which is I would say it's not just emotional, and to say kya karna hai, kya fayda hai, I mean, that logic you can also we could have put that same logic to for the Janmabhoomi agitation or Gyanvapi we are going to court. This logic for me doesn't really sound, because this is a subject which is close to the, not only, I don't want to get into the political side of what this subject means in Maharashtra, but let's face it, there are people even today which come out in support of Aurangzeb. They don't know the history of India. If they do that, there are members of Maharashtra Assembly which went in the budget session. There was no connection to Aurangzeb and budget session. We have a member of our assembly which said he was a great administrator, he was a great ruler. He apparently, I mean, come on, I have been reading history, and apparently Aurangzeb built temples. I don't know which parallel history we are this thing. And he went on and on to the extent that he was unanimously, suspended from our assembly, in the budget assembly. So the whole thing started with that. But I just want to say that there are two. I feel Fadnavis has two options, because Aurangzeb's tomb is a complicated legal matter. The tomb is being protected under the
ASI.
by the Archaeological Survey of India as a monument of historical importance. How it ended in a monument of historical importance? Who did this? Is a question we all are asking. And what is the, I mean, I feel eventually there has to be a legal realm. He has to fight this legal battle. I know there will be tremendous pressure from the Hindu organizations and BHP and Bajrang Dar, and I think they have every right to raise this issue. I don't, disagree with that. And if they want to do Kar Seva, but I think the real issue here would be that to understand that I would not even say just the Aurangzeb tomb. Take now time to take a survey. What kind of tombs we are protecting? Who are these people? What is their historical role in the Hindu genocide? Okay, and protecting such things, is this right thing to do? And most importantly, people who are still in denial of the massive Hindu genocide by whether it was Afzal Khan or Aurangzeb, there has to be now some kind of a legal action against these people. I genuinely believe.
Okay, great. That's a great opening. Thanks so much, Smita, for giving us that perspective. Thank you, Ratan Sharda ji, for joining us, and thank you, Sandeep, for joining us from the jungle or the forest, as you told me. But you're our resident historian, so I really appreciate you making it. Tell me, Sandeep, what's the historical
Good to see
context here?
Sandeep
A
on a
lot of
traveler
people are
show.
saying,
Hmm?
Ratan
What?
Sharda ji, interrupt me.
What
This
was
is
that?
very
What was that?
unfair.
Good to see
I was in
Sandeep
the
smile
flow.
on even a senior show.
Good
I
to see
wanted
you.
him to
Yeah.
see. I wanted to see his smile. So don't get upset, Advaita. You also have a
Hmm.
beautiful smile. Let him also smile.
I have a very
Sure.
beautiful smile, much more beautiful than Sandeep's. But anyway,
Sandeep is a
You'll pay for
rarity.
this. You'll pay for this comment.
Sandeep, I want to know, okay, what is the historical context? A lot of people are
Hmm.
saying that because Chhawa movies come out now, it sort of
Hmm.
agitated the conscience of people, and they
Hmm.
realized what a jerk Aurangzeb is, because Aurangzeb was like
Hmm.
awful, right? I mean, this is a guy who chopped up his brother into little bits and then sent
Yeah.
them to their dad, who was
Hmm.
in prison. So I mean, this is just an awful guy. But
Hmm.
how much do you think it has to do with this movie coming, bringing it into focus, and a genuine sort of angst about this?
No, I don't think, as much as Chava is a blockbuster and it has caused some kind of passionate revival and created a pan-Indian awareness about Aurangzeb and Sambhaji and the Maratha Empire, rest of the history. I think as a popular entertainment medium, that movie has acted as a force multiplier. This whole thing about is to, just to give a larger picture about these so-called Islamic monuments, be it at Adai Din Ka Dompra, somewhere near Ajmer in Rajasthan. So that was built exactly in 1.5 days after demolishing an existing Sanskrit university and a Saraswati temple using its own debris in just 1.5 days. That's why it's called Adai Dinka Jompra. So, coming to all these so-called Islamic monuments in India, dargahs, mosques, madrasas, these Aurangzeb type of what is that called? Graves, basically,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
very vulgar and expensive grave called Taj Mahal. All these monuments. So
Hmm.
you have to look at the difference in which the Islamic monuments are maintained, protected, cared for, and the difference on the opposite side. That is how Hindu monuments, temples, and other spaces are maintained. Classic example: the first thing you go as you enter the National Museum in Delhi is the beautiful murti of Bhagavan Surya or Aditya. Guess where that murti was originally housed in? Take a wild guess.
I can't, but I'm sure it's someplace very inappropriate.
It was in the Garbhagriha of the famous Sun Temple in Konark.
Okay.
Okay, so and now it is lying as a lifeless museum piece instead of being a part of a living temple.
Oh,
So
that's yeah.
yeah, and this Islamist lobby, they they zealously guard this heritage. What function, like Paul famously said, what useful function does the Taj Mahal serve? Nothing at all. So why have successive governments spent enormous sums to just maintain it?
No, because no, Sandeep, the Taj Mahal does attract a lot of dollars. It does attract a lot of
Yeah, but
tourism.
it doesn't
It,
serve a
it,
useful function.
it from an
It's a
economic
basic
point of view, it does, right? That this
yeah,
it's a
tourism is
huge
fine,
tourist
but
attraction.
by, by the same
From
argument
a
that was
cultural point
given,
of view, probably not. I mean,
yeah,
not
exactly.
probably not. It doesn't.
That's
But from
exactly
an
the point.
economic point of view, it
Hmm.
does.
Yeah, that's so. When you extend the same argument, which was sorry, I have bad throat. When you extend the same argument which was advocated uh, against the rebuilding of the Ram Temple, build a hospital, build a school, build a university, but don't touch the Taj Mahal. So you can forward these kinds of logic is a double-edged sword. But coming back to Aurangzeb's grave, there are multiple ways you can look at this issue. I, for one, I strongly advocate that it should not be relocated. Okay,
Okay.
it should remain in the same place, but it should not be celebrated by anybody. It should, because it's a piece of your real history that our people underwent 300 years back or so, right? So it should be a reminder of what this man did, what he symbolized. But the way it should be framed is to give a proper historical context on why his grave is important and the eternal warning that it gives all of us. So it's like the Holocaust Museum. So why are all these World War II sites, Nazi sites? It could be Auschwitz and other places there, all the gas chambers. They have become museums for a reason. They play a very central role in the psyche, not just of Jews, but in the German people. It is a reminder to the German people that something like another Hitler, if not controlled, if not nipped in the bud, another guy like Hitler could be born again sometime in future. So this is exactly the
Okay.
analogy
Okay.
that fits very well
No,
with Aurangzeb
I
as
get
well.
that. I think yes, if it is
No,
an
no, no.
if it is a
Uh,
document that has historical
no,
uh,
the point with
relevance
Aurangzeb,
for
why
the
he
fact
evoked
that
such hatred
okay,
among the Hindu
you're
community,
frozen, Sandeep.
revulsion is because
One
mm,
interjection
mm,
I'd like to make.
Go ahead.
It's
Go ahead, Sandeep.
it's different
mm.
between the Holocaust Museum, or in Vietnam you have those tunnels,
No, I
or for
can.
that matter, in a way, Jallianwala. But if you were
My
to
intent is
do,
patchy.
if you were to celebrate Hitler, it is a different thing,
Mm,
and reminding him and creating a memorial for Hitler, and to remind people of what Hitler was, as opposed to the
mm,
Holocaust Museum, or the, as I said, the Vietnamese Tunnel, or for that matter, what
mm.
we show in Jallianwala Bagh, and the rest of it. So I think we have to make that distinction. I would not put Aurangzeb's tomb at the same at par with the Holocaust, museum, or the rest of it. That's my limited point.
Okay, and now we're joined also by Ratan Sharda ji. Ratan Sharda ji, from from the perspective of an ideological fight. Devendra Fadnavis has, brought this issue up, obviously in the context of people talking about it, there being widespread protests. The criticism is that why don't you focus on aspects that are actually important to present day India, as opposed to this grave, which, by most accounts, has been left in disrepair, and really that has no impact on where we're heading as a country.
Advaita, let me first put my views on what has already been expressed so I can move to the next point. One is that the murtis, most of which are recovered from the overseas country, overseas places, they go to the warehouse. As far as AS is concerned, they are not displayed most of the time. They are not given back to the temples of where they were brought up. Same ASI doesn't take care of Maharani Tarabai tomb, who was the lady who finally made Aurangzeb die, a very disappointed man. Her tomb is her samadhi is in a horrible way. Raja Rajachola, one of the biggest emperors of Bharat, who created history himself, his samadhi is in a very bad shape. ISI does nothing. ISI can take money from Aga Khan and repair all the Islamic memorials, but ASI doesn't take money, or do not know what is the reason. It doesn't take from Hindus, and Hindu memorials are in a very bad shape. That is point one. Secondly, there is also what kind of thinking we have. Afzal Khan's tomb was much bigger than the condition of the Pratapgarh and Raigad situation of Shivaji Maharaj's memorial. And it had more visitors who were there to pray for Afzal Khan. And when a poster was put up in Maharashtra, I think somewhere in Sangli, showing that particular episode of Shivaji killing Afzal Khan, local Muslims objected, and the MB or Congress government that time made them remove that particular banner. This is condition of our history. Now you talk of Chhawa. Chhawa did not create waves, did not create this kind of strong feeling, because it created, because see, when you read in the history, it is very simple thing. He was tortured for 40 days, his skin was taken out, his eyes were gouged. But when you actually see on the screen, you are for cinematic background, you understand. So that impact that it has shocks people beyond words. That is why Auschwitz becomes much more bigger when he's in the movie. Schindler's List becomes much more bigger than you just read in the World War. So that is the main issue why Chavez created this kind of stir. Now, if Aurangzeb's tomb is to be removed, it doesn't make matter whether it's there or not. It is, if it is there, we should put a complete board saying this man died, disappointed man. This is the comment he's made. The end. He could not stop Marathas' progress for 21 years of rotting in South, totally failure, and he made his entire treasury was emptied. If these lessons are there, then his tomb makes a sense. Otherwise, what is the value? Do you worship Hitler? Do you celebrate him? Are you allowed to appreciate, actually appreciate Hitler? No, you are punished for that. एंड वी आर हियर सेइंग नहीं नहीं वो तो अच्छा आदमी था, टोपी सिलता था, वो तो मंदिरों को दान भी करता था. आई हैव हर्ड ऑल दिस शिट टुडे इन द टीवी डिबेट्स. जब मंदिरों को दान करता था, he only destroyed 8 temples, he gave money to 8 temples. So this kind of counter-balancing does not make sense because it hurts the Hindus more. It's a deep civilizational wound. If we say that why should we talk of Aurangzeb now, 300 साल पहले मर गया था, तो भैया ब्लैक लाइव्स मैटर के ब्लैक्स 200 साल पहले 300 साल पहले आए थे अमेरिका में in a very bad condition. They were tortured, they got killed on way, millions perished. They were not allowed to celebrate their festivals, they were not allowed to name their babies as per their tradition. After all this, and finally when the slavery was removed 250 years back, why are you talking of Black Lives Matter? Why are we talking of Native Americans? Why are we talking of Hindus genocide then? Then it makes sense. Brahmins, who are even today abused for something that their forefathers did, as the Pinans,
Yeah.
they supported every kind of reservation, every kind of positive discrimination for the downtrodden. They are still abused. So you cannot have two standards. And for us to forget history, those who forget history are bound to repeat it. What is happening
Hmm.
in Nagpur is not something new. It happened in Mahu, it happened in Delhi riots, it happened in a lot
Yeah.
of places. If you see globally, and incensed people and unhappy people and angry people, they even hit the people, they riot against the people who hosted them. Is this the way that then you are blaming Hindus? There is no RSS VHP in Kenya, in Nigeria, in Germany, in France, in UK, wherever you go. So why are they running riot? Because the leaders have made them feel that they are always under fire, they are always persecuted. First you provoke, then you run riot, then you play victim card.
Okay,
And why
okay.
Nagpur? Last
Ratan
point, why
Shah,
Nagpur? Last point. Why Nagpur? Because Devendra Fadnavis make a statement that those people who appreciate, who you are fan of Aurangzeb will be crushed ideologically. So they have to show that in Nagpur, they even there they can do anything. Let it be RSS headquarters, whatever. One small story: 1927 was the last riot in Nagpur, which was stopped by Dr. Hedgewar with 100 Swayamseva Ganesh. After that, no riot took place. So this riot is a challenge to the government, direct challenge to the government with pre-planned attack, because all the evidence that shows pre-planned, only targeted cars were burnt, only houses were attacked. So this has to stop. And this
okay.
bravado that they can do anything and they will not be punished because seculars are supporting them, this has to stop somewhere.
Okay. So this we've quickly jumped into the actual riot part of what's happened, which I wanted to get back to Smita about. But I'm going to bring in Professor Sengupta in, although he didn't confirm he'd be joining us, but they just turn up. So here he is. So, Professor, make your contribution, and then I can move to Smita.
Let me come back to the point that Dr. Ratan Sharda was making. You see, the problem is with our historiography. The kind of historiography pushed by certain leftist historians, and in this case, Professor Satish Chandra. You know, where Aurangzeb is concerned, if you read the accounts and the histories that was given to us by Sir Jadunath Sharkar, it makes very, very clear what that person was. Okay. And then started this particular project of actually first refurbishing, or rather playing down the damage that Aurangzeb had done, and then playing it up again. When you have that kind of historiography, dishonest historiography, and which is completely again supported by a series of historians and not very serious historians, the particular historian who is now making the rounds of television studios pushing it is a very provocative historian who relies on other charms rather than the quality of that history to push this particular case. And sometimes, unfortunately, the people opposing this particular historian are so foul mouthed and bereft of ideas, they haven't read history at all, that they create a scene where this particular history starts to look good. This is the
Hmm.
basis. This is the kind of history which refurbishes the image of a fanatic, the person who basically ensured that the Mughal Empire disintegrated. When you have a concerted effort at refurbishing a character such as this, everybody starts playing up, and then obviously you'll have leaders saying actually he was a good soul, etc., etc. It strikes a chord somewhere, and therefore that the tomb of Aurangzeb, which instead of Ratan Sharda saying, it should have a true account of his life and how he actually he sowed the seeds of disintegration of his particular empire, it becomes a place of pilgrimage. Number one. Number two, the other thing is basically the current event. I think this is an attempt to push back the boundaries. This particular thinking, this particular leadership is always pushing back goalposts as to what should be deemed acceptable. No. So, first, why was there this movie to begin with? This was a terrible movie. Was whatever shown in the movie wrong? The answer is no. We all know the accounts. So the question is, you start raising questions on issues where history is absolutely settled, and you start pushing back time and time again, saying this is our red lines. You go beyond this, we will do certain things. The Delhi riots, which were against CA, NRC, and this is the same thing out here. And I think the critical test lies in what the Maharashtra government does. It can
Okay.
take its time, but it has to basically take action.
Smita, what is with the Maharashtra government? I mean, what are they going to do? This thing has started. We saw violence yesterday. Unfortunately, this kind of violence seems to be the only answer that comes to mind of when these kind of issues come up, and it's a form of threat. It's a form of basically, uh, I guess, coercive manipulation of other communities, and that is very, very problematic because it's a pattern of behavior.
You're on mute. Smita
Smita,
ji, you're
you're
on
on
mute.
mute. Yeah.
So the Aurangzeb continues to dominate Maharashtra government, I would say, every decade. If you remember, the name change of Aurangabad to Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar was a promise made by Balasaheb Thackeray. And when the time came to implement that promise, Uddhav Thackeray backed off. He also, that same logic, kya zarurat hai? I will anyway say it. Why do you need a government ordinance or anything to make it? And I am happy that Eknath Shinde fulfilled that promise in I think 3 years ago. So that is one part. Even if you look at the way this build up has happened, since I keep on coming back to the Maharashtra budget session where Aurangzeb is praised as a great administrator. After that, what happens is the entire opposition is silent. This particular MLA is, suspended. And what really finally happens in Nagpur, as I clearly said by Ratan Sharda ji, it is a direct challenge to Fadnavis, because Fadnavis is saying, he did say, I think 2 days ago, where he said that, we cannot do anything. The monument is under the ASI control. So demolishing this monument and taking this thing away is, as of now, out of question. But he says anybody who is praising Aurangzeb, there will be legal ramifications. I think that was a extremely correct stand taken, because the moment you praise Aurangzeb by bringing idiotic history, that he was a big supporter of, he built more temples and all this. This is, I'm sorry to say, total BS. You are, as I said, you are in denial of the Hindu genocide, and there should be repercussions if you do that. So that is a correct stand. Now look what happens after Nagpur, and in all the initial reports of Nagpur, I just see a great sense of deja vu, very similar like Delhi. People were very much prepared. People were full of masks. They were throwing stones at the police. They even the specific vehicles, specific communities were attacked. So obviously it was a very well planned strategy. And what happens after the riots? You have a political party with a name like, now of course it's Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, but the erstwhile Shiv Sena saying that the tomb of Aurangzeb is a symbol of valor. This is Maharashtra. These are Maharashtra politicians. Shame on all of them. And I also want to say shame on people who vote for these parties. What does this is UBT. What does the Congress say? The Congress say that the rule of Devendra Fadnavis in Maharashtra is like Aurangzeb. These are the demented oppositions in Maharashtra, which are trying very hard. Now imagine after this debacle of November 2024, this is the stand the opposition in Maharashtra are taking. And I must say that if they are doomed for life for the next 10 years ever to come back in power in Maharashtra, I'll be very happy that people are watching. All those who voted for these people are watching. I just believe that what is the solution? The solution is that if you deny history, and in fact, Delhi showed you that you denied history, what happened in Delhi, and I think Nagpur is showing you that what is going to happen to you. There'll be more Nagpurs. And are you prepared? And the answer is no. This might take, but I feel there has to. I really believe at the highest level, look at the complete functioning of the Archaeological Survey of India. Are they doing their work? If there is a rehaul, and I would, if I have to ever advise Fadnavis, he must look at legal ramifications. He must look at legal options to see that these tombs are not celebrated. Definitely, and all these shops around these tombs, this tourist destination, what kind of business around these tombs have to go. They have to go. These are the things which the state government can easily do, should be done. There should be a short-term strategy and there should be a long-term legal strategy. It is something which, and I'm sure he will do it.
Hmm. 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 Sandeep, I mean, there's the history, and then there's just the fact that this man was an exceedingly cruel man. Why is it so hard for us to break through this persona of who Aurangzeb exactly was?
No, the whole point is, it's a fantastic question, by the way. See, the whole point about Aurangzeb, let's see how we can best unpack this. Even during the run up to the freedom struggle, and for a few decades, about at least 2.5 decades after independence, the consensus was that Aurangzeb could not be celebrated on any ground, or uh, his horrible record could not be whitewashed in, by any standard. All right, that changed after the leftists took control of the history establishment, and they thoroughly whitewashed him. But there is this other thing, even within the Muslim community, the name of Aurangzeb, especially after partition and even before it, the name of Aurangzeb was whispered in hushed tones if it was mentioned at all.
Hmm.
And after 75
Go ahead, Sandeep. Sandeep,
years.
maybe you can switch off your video because your audio is getting impacted, so we can hear you clearer. If you switch it off.
You have Paularas and Cleric and all those bigots coming on TV and celebrating this fellow as a hero. Uh, yeah, now, now,
No, can't hear you. Can't hear you. I think we'll go to Ratan
okay, is this
Sharda ji, and then while you while
better?
you while you get your
Now
connection
is
going.
okay. I think you can speak. Video is
Is
down.
Can
You
you
can
speak
speak now.
now,
it
Sandeep?
better?
Yeah, it's fine. Now it's fine.
Can you hear me? Hello,
Yeah,
Yes.
we can. Now we can.
hello.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Now we can.
Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Hello.
Are, he can't hear us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Professor,
Now,
go ahead. Yes, we can
No,
hear
am I
you.
audible? Oh,
yes, you
Yes.
are.
so my net here is quite patchy. So sorry, sorry about that. So like I was saying, yeah, like I was saying,
Okay, he's gone. Go ahead, Professor. You wanted to come in?
Look, in fact, I'll say what he was actually saying. It is absolutely correct that for a few decades, 2 decades after independence, the name of Aurangzeb was essentially mud. Even among the Muslims, you see, where Shias were concerned, there were absolute consensus that Aurangzeb was actually a cruel king. He was a very fanatic king. He basically supported the Sunni version of his faith, and he basically came down heavily on Shias, etc. He considered apostates. So that was there, no doubt about it. And when he did support Hindu temples, it was for strategic reasons, not because of any love for the Hindu faith or for any respect for Indic culture. That's also clear. Jadunath Sarkar makes it absolutely clear. Then starts the refurbishing of his image by leftist historians, particularly Professor Satish Chandra, where he starts putting all this, as statecraft. And then, of course, he is almost made secular and then whitewashed. And then what happens is politics takes over, and then his reputation as being a efficient administrator and a general is mainstreamed. And once that mainstreaming occurs, uh, The natural politics is that among the Muslims, he he has pride of place. I mean, you talk to any Muslim about Aurangzeb, you know, the the his reputation is actually very very high. Notwithstanding the cruelties he inflicted on his subjects, particularly Hindu subjects, notwithstanding the fact that he imposed jizya on the majority of these particular subjects, that is seen to be something that is kosher. And I would blame the kind of history that was peddled for that, and that history had social sanction. It had official sanction. It had Mrs. Gandhi's sanction from the late 60s onwards. And this is what will come. So what has happened is a person's reputation has been refurbished, he has been rehabilitated, and therefore, as a consequence, any attempt to critique him and therefore to criticize him is seen as an affront by an entire community. Who has brought it about? This has been brought about by state effort. The effort has been made by the Indian state, mainstreamed into NCERT history books, college history books, and university history books. So, this is something that we have created for ourselves. Now, one of the things that needs to be done, all this talk about removing his tomb have been made by isolated forces here and there. But when it comes to his tomb, one of the things has to be done is to give the correct version of history. And the other thing that has to be done, as Ratanji said, that there are so many memorials, structures, buildings built by those who resisted him, built by those who actually contributed to Indic culture. Where are they? When you start to refurbish tombs such as this to the neglect of those who played a far more positive role, you will have problems. So I think let us look at this as a matter for course correction and go ahead. But what has happened out here, again, I think Ratan Shardaji agrees, everybody agrees, this is an attempt to dictate how this debate will be played and so on and so forth. The fact that is happening or at a time when the Waqf bill, Awqaf bill is being discussed, you know, is not
Uh,
something that can be ignored.
yeah,
So,
Professor. I just want to bring in Sandeep because we keep losing him. So if he's got a stable connection, I just want his intervention quickly.
Sure. All right. Am I audible now at least?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
All right. Let's try my luck now. So, see, like I said, until the 60s, late 60s, even within the Islamic community, Aurangzeb's name was something that was whispered in hushed tones. All right. Behind doors, it was, forget rehabilitating him. They had, that community had a semblance of guilt over his record. And this was not coincidental that, this happened because that community was the reason for the partition of undivided India. And within 4 decades after that, and in our own time, you have all kinds of crazy Maulanas and Imams coming on TV and celebrating this guy, calling him as their hero on live TV, and nobody bats an eyelid. All right. So you see where the change, the trajectory of this change, secularism, distortion of history textbooks, all these are all, yeah, fine. They're all valid reasons. But the problem is more fundamental. Let's approach this in a different way. Maharashtra, especially, was the land that proclaimed the first rebellion against someone like Aurangzeb. He met his Waterloo, to borrow a more contemporary parlance. He met his Waterloo in what is known as Deccan. Remember where he died. Remember the fact that he bankrupted his whole treasury in trying to suppress all these revolts and fights in the Deccan, in Dakshinapatha. Things went to such a pathetic state that grain dealers, provision merchants in Maharashtra, in Madhya Pradesh, all those regions in and around India, grain merchants, corn dealers, uniform makers, tailors, they refused to give credit to Aurangzeb until their past dues were cleared. And why did he do this? Why did he concentrate, wage all these repeated, mindless, senseless campaigns in Dakshinapata? Because he sensed that this was the greatest hub of infidelity. You must read his copious letters that he's written to various governors and other some of his officials. Unfortunately, people don't go into the details. That's where his real character lies. Okay. And I think Dipankar ji mentioned something about how he's a hero and all that those things within the Muslim community. So the answer is this: apart from in the annals of Islamic history of India, two people are celebrated as the true Ghazis, or the upholders and defenders and expanders of the faith. The first is Mahmud of this. The second is Aurangzeb. There are the glorifying verses extolling Aurangzeb's piety. He was more learned in the orthodox traditions of Quran and Hadith than his entire clergy, than his entire ulema put together. So a heated battle is raging against the Kafirs. And this man gets down from his horse, and right in the middle of the battlefield, it is prayer time. He does namaz. And his chroniclers go into raptures. And this is what is taught in their madrasas. Why he is regarded as a place in peacetime, and you wage constant wars to expand your faith. This is why he is celebrated as a hero.
Yeah, Sandeep ji,
Uh,
let me tell you
I have
what is ironic.
published
One
a
of
brief
yes,
list of all the temples that he destroyed on Dharma Dispatch. Please finish. Please let me finish. Please.
sure.
So I've given a partial list of all the temples he destroyed. That partial list itself runs into 233 temples, length and breadth of India. So,
Okay.
uh,
Sandeep, you're again having trouble with your connection. I'm going to bring in
he
Ratan Sharda
prohibited
ji.
Diwali
Ratan Sharda ji,
in Gujarat
again,
for the first
it
time.
brings us back. It brings us back to that same conundrum.
He
You
prohibited
won't actually
all
find,
Hindu
like,
festivals of,
people naming their kids Aurangzeb or any kind of
and this
that
prohibition
sort of things, where you do find
came
that with.
when he was not yet
I think
a
I need to
sultan.
mute Sandeep because we're not able to hear
Once he
him
became
at
a
all.
sultan, coercive measures against Hindus. One of the first things he did was to expel Hindus nation. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sandeep. Okay, it's very hard to hear Sandeep. It's like in movies how we have a background track. So it's like this historian's background track through the whole show, and then we're discussing things over it. But then that's the Sunday Club. These things happen. But Ratan Shahda ji, I want to actually get some clarity from you. One doesn't really hear of people naming their kids after Aurangzeb or any of those kind of things in everyday normal life.
Am I
But this
audible
is
now?
certainly, like Sandeep pointed out to us also, it was back in the 60s where this resurrection, if you will, of this character from history, this despicable character from history, was done. And now we're at this point where it's become such an inflammable topic. How do we get around this, wherein we can all come to the same place and say that, look, this is a horrible guy. He killed his own brother, jailed his fathers. Forget what he did to Hindus, if you don't want to consider that. So can we just dump him?
See, there is a very powerful ecosystem of leftist secular forces which are in cahoots with the communists have created this very strange narrative which goes against the very ethos and very heartbreaking
Before I
history of
forget,
India, and they
no,
try
no,
to
before I forget,
go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, Sandeep. Go ahead. We're all making way for you today.
Ghost from the forest.
yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah. So, the point is this, okay? For, for all the whitewashing of Aurangzeb that these fellows have done, right? Imagine that either Aurangzeb was reborn in this era with his full powers intact, or imagine that these secularists, these distortionists, were living in his era. And when they recast him, when they whitewashed his deeds in the manner in which they have done, in his presence, in his regime, he would have first thing he would have done to them is tortured them and killed them, inflicted painful death.
True.
As simple as that. He was doing whatever he did. He did all the horrors that he unleashed. He did it out of a sense of piety to Islam.
Yes.
And these people are trying to whitewash that. They're insulting him. He would
That
have
is right.
rounded them up and, tortured and flogged them, skinned them alive. This is a verdict of history in his own
Yep.
words, in his own documentation.
Okay.
Yes,
See,
Okay.
if you read the history of Islamic invaders through their own historians, they are
yeah.
much more honest. They are very
Yes.
clear about what they
See,
did to the
if
people
not
of that
anything,
particular country.
that's a good point, Ratanji. If not anything, these Islamic chroniclers were honest to the core
Absolutely.
Yeah,
about their patrons, about the purpose, about the realities of their alleged governance. They were honest to the core.
true.
So they
Yeah.
So
use
see,
some extremely colorful verbiage. Rivers of kafir blood. Made the Yamuna dirty. Crow-faced
see,
rice-eating kafirs were beheaded by the thousands.
yeah.
This is a kind of language. Other,
See,
I can't. Yeah.
you cannot
So
sanitize history. You have to
if not
accept
anything, they were
as it
honest.
is if you want to reconcile. You cannot reconcile history by trying to put some septic band-aid
Yeah.
on the bloody history of Bharat. You have to
No,
accept
not
it,
not
only then you
happening.
can move out.
Yeah, not
Only
happening.
then you can move out. Remember, Tipu Sultan was, see, why this glorification happened? Because till 1960s, till the Marxist historians came on the store, Muslims who had stayed back had a sense of guilt. They were keeping quiet because they realized what their brethren had done during partition, and why
Yeah, exactly what I said.
they were still in India at the mercy
Exactly
of
what I said.
Hindus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when the secular historians distorted history, slowly recovered their poise, they started feeling we have ruled these kafirs for such a long time. Obviously says today, we ruled over him for 800 years. He doesn't realize he's one of the converts. So if that is so, remember Tipu Sultan, myth of Tipu Sultan? He was a reviled king all through. Suddenly one Bhagwan Gidwani writes a fiction, Sword of Tipu Sultan. Tipu Sultan becomes a hero. That is how weak our historical knowledge is. And
Ratanji,
AMM, it follows Fatwa Alamgiri. You ask them what laws they follow. They will tell you Fatwa Alamgiri. They follow Aurangzeb's fatwas. That is their history. When we have these people coming on the TV and talking about we respect constitution and all, you can't really believe them. And there is a letter by son of Aurangzeb who tells the as descendant of Raja Mirza Raje that my father is always biased against Hindus. I am sorry, but you know his nature. That is written by his own son. That letter is there. I have got the original also. That letter is there. So with all this, when you talk about this history of Aurangzeb, it is just the psychological built-up of the less secular historians, and that history will be balanced when more and more literature comes out, and as more and more films comes out. I do not understand why, I keep saying why Muslims identify with Aurangzeb, but for the Muslim cleric, but for the people like Owaisi, but for people like Jinnah, why should they identify with the Aurangzebs? Because Aurangzeb was tyrant. He tried to convert everybody. He could not convert somebody, so we are still there. And there are some who got converted, they become Muslims. So how can they love their tormentor? Because they have given to understand they are part of the tormentor. Sorry, they are not. They were
Okay.
despised by the person.
Okay.
The Ashrafi Muslims
Ratan
don't
Sharda
like
ji, yeah, that's
low caste Muslims. So till the
yeah.
time they realize they don't belong to Aurangzeb because they're converted by the same force, they will reconcile the day they understand this. But the
Okay.
politics doesn't allow them to do that.
All right.
You
All
know,
right.
Ratanji,
Here's
somewhere
here's
down the
here's
line,
something that I just want to read out. A few distant centuries ago, on a nondescript day, I can barely imagine upon what craggy hilltop, within a dense, sunless forest, O sovereign Shivaji, lightning like across your forehead, there flashed the thought from above. With a singular religious thread, this torn up, fragmented Bharat, I shall bind in one. This Bengal that day had not awakened, startled from stupor, had not received the tidings, had not rushed outside her courtyard, had not resonated then with the sound of.
this is a poem by, you see, this is a very celebrated poem on Shivaji by Rabindranath Tagore. Okay,
Yeah.
I think
Beautiful.
we have moved so far from that. When what Shivaji did, the enormity of what Shivaji and the Marathas did was recognized by people like Tagore till this day. I mean, let us face it, after the Mughals, it was the Marathas who controlled the largest part of India's territory. Somewhere down the line, it has been effaced. And the history that is peddled in Bengal by leftist Marxist historians is that when it comes to Bengal and other places, the Marathas were actually predatory. They raided Bengal, they made the life of people of Bengal miserable. How have we moved? When a person like Tagore, one of the best poems of Tagore on Shivaji, how have we moved? This is what basically decades of mental influence, the kind of baleful influence historians have on you, that you end up
Okay.
with this. And
Professor, I
one of
have
the
to go to Smita. Professor, you
sure.
don't let anybody speak and then you take over like everybody's time slot because you're a bully. All right.
And that's
Smita,
45-minute lecture, don't forget.
I know. Smita, okay. Quick thing.
He's a
This
40 minutes professor and Sandeep is a history writer.
and you're the interrupter. You're the
Yes,
interrupter
exactly. That is
every
my
time I
job.
speak. I think you.
That is
I
my
think you want
job.
to. I think you want to take over this show.
I am
That's
the
what's
heckler.
happening.
I am the
You're
heckler.
the RSS. I tell you, my God, always creating trouble. Smita, the Waqf board that's happening in Parliament. Fadnavis seems to have sparked this off, or at least he's being blamed for it. What are the political ramifications? And then we'll wrap this up.
I think this was almost like what is likely to happen. I don't want to sound, as if there's going to be more violence, but I think this was almost like what is likely to happen. It could happen when the WAF bill gets passed or it's tabled and get passed. But I was just listening to you. It says who in today's age and world, names. I mean, I've not heard somebody who's called Aurangzeb. Anybody naming. I can assure you that I live in a part of Mumbai where I have encountered 7 Aurangzebs around me.
Really?
Yes, yes, very much. There was an electrician who came to my house whose name was Aurangzeb
Common name.
some years ago. There are Taimurs roaming around and, celebrated,
Big ones.
Yeah, and what about Afzal? It's a very big name. It's like all over this thing. So I don't think so. The fact that they are very much around our society.
Afzal
Now,
Guru. Afzal
I
Guru,
also want
anybody?
to give you, yeah, yeah. I also want to give you a small, like an anecdote. When Chava was released, and I have this one very woke liberal Maharashtrian friend who lives in the heart of Bollywood in Bandra. And first, of course, she told me, "Oh, propaganda, propaganda. I'm not going to see. I'm not going to see." And I think there was some pressure from her daughter to go and see the movie. And after, when she saw the movie, she came back totally allegedly devastated. And sometimes I wonder, I mean, I don't want to say that all Maharashtrians are supposed to know every part of our history, but imagine being, in this state and not knowing Shivaji's and Sambhaji Maharaj's history. And I have seen many people who have watched Chava and they were like, oh my God, oh my God. And I wonder what is really happening in our schools and, our curriculums. And every time I read the history books at our curriculum in Maharashtra, it stops at Shivaji. Of course, there is a mention of Sambhaji and he was cruelly, and it somewhere down the line ends. Even when I think Bajirao's movie came, people were like, oh my God. Of course, even that movie was totally, what can you say, secularized. First of all, there was no concept of secularism during Shivaji Maharaj's time. Shivaji Maharaj wanted the task given to him was to establish Hindavi Swaraj, and he was fighting Islamic invaders. Okay, all other attempts to secularize Shivaji is all nothing but BS. The political ramification. Let me come to your question now. I don't see none. In fact, the opposition is so badly exposed in this. The media will continue this. Do we need this? Maharashtra में प्रगति कहाँ है? आप ही की तो सरकार है, double engine. Fine, but the historical wrongs cannot be just tolerated in this way. There was an organized riot, a well-planned riot, based on some fake WhatsApp or some picture that some picture has been burned or some book has been burned. A WhatsApp message like this can create a riot, a well-planned riot in Maharashtra today, in the heart of Maharashtra, the hometown of the sitting chief minister. Well, that tells a lot. I feel that the Maharashtra government should lead the way. Sometimes incidents happen like this. It should not happen, well, but something like this has happened. Call for a complete, what can you say, relook at the functioning of ASI and what kind of monuments ASI is protecting all over India and what kind of monuments they're supposed to protect. That could be one. Praising and eulogizing Aurangzeb should be an offense, because that way you are actually, what can you say, supporting the Hindu genocide. That should be definitely one. And this business around these tombs should be stopped with a clear, I would say the MTDC and Maharashtra Tourism Development Corporation can take up this job, put up the real history, whose tomb it is, and all the business around these tombs have to stop, including the one which is in Pratapgarh. This is what I feel.
Okay, great. I got a question. I got a message from Pallavi, for those of you who are asking about her in the chat, that she couldn't join us because Parliament is on, so that kind of keeps her really busy. I'm sure she'll come back when she has to. And Professor, I'm sure you want to say something, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds to say something, and then we'll wrap this up. And Sandeep is there as well, but Sandeep will go on and on. So
Ratan, Sharda spoke about these people, Owaisi actually being Indians whose forefathers were converted. But I've seen this when it comes to Owaisi, when it comes to many leaders in Pakistan as well as Bangladesh. They will always say that their forefathers came from Central Asia, West Asia, Iran, etc., etc. They play this up always. There is this particular distinction, they want to keep themselves ahead from the hoi polloi by saying that we are the original Muslims. That's very much there, and it's the symbol of the stratification that has taken place in this particular community. And that, I think, can be used to do benefit if we want to make an impact.
Okay. And Sandeep from the forest, do you have anything to say to us before we bid you goodbye?
Only 2 points before you abuse me more.
I don't abuse you at all, ever.
So I think Ratanji's and even Dipankarji's what they mentioned about Mr. Owaisi, interesting tidbit from history. The state from which he comes, former princely state, Hyderabad. Okay, so a man named Qasim Rizvi, we've all heard his name, infamous mafia don leading the Razakars. So once Hyderabad was integrated and the Razakars were put down, this guy Qasim Rizvi, along with some of his followers, he migrated to the newly created Pakistan, where he was given hero's welcome. and a separate enclave called Hyderabad Colony was created, I think, somewhere in Lahore or Karachi. It still exists. So you see the kind of people that this newly created Pakistan celebrates. You just, as a uh, academic exercise, just look at all the awards that Pakistan has given over the last 70+ years, all the postage stamps that they've released in the honor of heroes. Every single person has either directly fought for the partition of India, fought for the creation of Pakistan, or been its ideological fathers. Every single person, Hasrat Mohani, he has a postage stamp in his honor. Hasrat Mohani was once described by the great Mohandas Gandhi as my spiritual mentor or some shit like that. A postage stamp was released in his honor by Mr. Hamid Ansari when he was Vice President of India.
Well, less said the better about Hamid Ansari. That's another can of worms that we don't want to
Agreed.
open.
So, so
But
you so you see the kind of heroes that these people celebrate. One, two. Uh, what is now happening in Nagpur, elsewhere in UP, in Mau, all those places? It only goes to show how wise Sardar Patel and others were when they said full exchange of population. Okay,
yeah.
that didn't happen, unfortunately, and we will keep, mark my words, we'll keep having these debates again and again.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's all I can say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So is
there
that
are a lot of people, Muslims in Karnataka, who also name their as Tipu, Aurangzeb's junior contemporary.
all right?
If I may add something, Advaita.
Go ahead,
So,
Smita.
yeah, so Kashmir Files was propaganda film. Kerala Files was propaganda film.
Kerala story. Kerala story.
Kerala Story propaganda film. And I was waiting, when Chava was released and it got this huge box office thing. Nobody said propaganda film to Chava. And Vicky Kaushal was giving, he played. I mean, he worked on this thing and everything. But since yesterday, the online hate which Vicky Kaushal is getting for being a party to this Chava movie, and Chava has been since last 24 hours being called a propaganda film. you know that is how the narrative gets built all the time. I mean, these guys don't even have any other, I call it the other rule book. It's the same rule book. And Vicky Kaushal has been so badly attacked on social media. So it's the same rule book, and we should be ready. It will be repeated all over again.
I think that's also strategic. No, I'm sorry, I'm digressing to Bollywood a little bit, but the moment you have someone outside of that, I guess that
Nepotism.
clique who
Yeah.
strikes at a 400 crore movie, which is what Chava is becoming, then there will be an orchestrated campaign to pull him down. And what's
But do
happening with
you
Vicky
know
Kaushal?
one? You know what?
No, no,
What was another attack on Vicky Kaushal
Smitaji,
today? That he
Smitaji,
was
before
no.
you
There
can
was one
mention
more attack on. Let me finish. Let me finish. There was one more attack on Vicky Kaushal today. That do you know he portrayed Sam Bahadur? He attacked, he was part of that
no,
movie which created Bangladesh. Can you imagine to what extent people are going?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Yeah. And the fact that, I mean, Vicky Kaushal's wife Katrina is in Kumbh. She's in a temple
Yeah.
in the south, and it's really quite interesting the times we live in. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Smita from Mumbai for her
good for her.
sharp political commentary as always. Sandeep from some forest, I
Hmm.
don't know where, somewhere in the south again. I'm not sure where he is. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
and yes, Sandeep,
Hmm.
okay, and
I won't tell you.
Professor. Yeah, don't tell me. I'm not interested. Also, beyond a point. And and Professor, thank you
Hmm.
so very much, Professor, for turning up, though you were not invited. It's very kind of you to
I
do
was
this
invited.
today. You were not
She's such
invited.
a horrible
Of
lady.
course, I was.
Professor,
I got a
she's such a
WhatsApp message.
horrible lady. Yeah.
No,
Suhail said should have been there. Yeah.
no. Sohail is not here. He's in Goa, but Professor was definitely
Okay.
not invited. Uh,
Of course, I can WhatsApp. I'll tell you the WhatsApp message.
all right, everyone.
Thank
Thank you for watching. Please do like, share, and what's the third thing? Subscribe. Yeah. So please do
Yes.
like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this conversation. And we shall be back soon with the usual suspects and some more people. And Smita only comes to us when there's something about Maharashtra. Smita says, I'm not going to come for anything else. So now we'll see her, Smita, next time when there's something to do with Maharashtra. And Sandeep, our resident historian, thank you so much for being with us. And bye for now, everybody,
Thank you.
and
Thanks
talk
for
to you.
having me.
Bye.
Jai Maharashtra.